Hello, welcome on into the Wise Guys podcast. I am John Tortorelli, bringing Capozziello and Justin Ray. And in today's episode, we're going to start off with a very controversial topic with Anthony Edwards signing a massive $200 million extension. And the Minnesota Timberwolves ready to take that next step. Are they good enough to be a team like Los Angeles Clippers, who also have a big year ahead? We'll also cover in this episode the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers, as the NFL season is just about 6-7 weeks away, and we're looking forward to that. But with all that being said, I don't know about you guys. I was in Vegas this last week, and I got to try two restaurants that aren't on the East Coast. Raising Cane's, which I thought was like, on a scale of Popeyes and Chick-fil-A, I thought it was a little bit better than Popeyes personally. I liked it a little bit more, but the fries were slightly worse than Chick-fil-A's, I would argue. And then I also tried Jack in the Box. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I kind of thought they were both better than Popeyes. I don't know about you, but I wanted to ask you guys, have you tried it yet?
In Popeyes, in terms of their chicken?
Yes, in terms of their chicken.
I can't speak on them because I've never had it. But Popeyes for me is number one. Ever since KFC fell off in like the mid 2000s, KFC was the king back then. Then Popeyes came in strong. But I've always said Popeyes French fries are the best French fries.
Defeated.
Undefeated.
At work, so we have a chef that works at my job, and he was going on lunch, and of all people, a chef, he was like, I'm going to Popeyes. You want anything? I was like, nah, I'm good. He was like, you don't even want fries? And I said, all right, bring me some fries. I dogged that whole entire box. Sure. Now, Chick-fil-A still best chicken. Nothing matches it.
Interesting.
I would argue Five Guys fries are kind of like in the same tier.
It's just thrown in a bag. That's all it is, man.
Yeah, it's not the same.
That's reasonable. I'm a big Five Guys fan. I thought that like relative to Chick-fil-A and Popeyes, it's firmly in that tier. That's kind of like we're in the East Coast.
Nah. I worked at Five Guys. Nah, I'm sick of it.
Maybe you just have a very good Five Guys near you.
That's reasonable. If you work there, you'd get sick and tired of it. But I mean, outside of it being extra greasy, I thought it would
stop my dog from squeaking his toys. He's
all good. I kind of thought that relative to a Popeyes, it's actually a little bit better chicken. Well, the burgers are better than Popeyes chicken in my eyes.
Okay,
they do serve different things. So,
you're comparing chicken to burgers.
I'm comparing a point guard to a small forward.
There you go. Yeah. I will say this. Last time I went to Popeyes, I got their chicken sandwich because they do sell you get chicken and bacon and cheese on it now. I didn't get the bacon. That's just too much, but I got the cheese. There's a lady there, John, that worked the cashier. I kid you not. Sounds just like Cardi B. Sounds just like Cardi. If you closed your ears, I should have got recorded her voice. Dude, sounded just like Cardi B. Insane. Blew my mind.
Did she look like Cardi B?
No, not at all. Not even close. The complete antithesis of Cardi B. Small, skinny. Antithesis.
Just the way John likes him.
There you go.
So with all that out of the way, we're going to begin this episode. If you haven't already, be sure to drop a like in the stream with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I delivered a take on Twitter. I'm not one of the people that likes to just tweet stuff for the sake of tweeting it. This offseason, the Minnesota Timberwolves, to me, have rebuilt a lot of what they gave up in the Rudy Gobert trade. Remember, in that deal, they gave up 4 first-round picks, a 5th first-round pick that's got protection on it, 4 role players. Everybody want to harp on, how they lost in the margins. But this year in the draft, they get a prospect in the second round, Leonard Miller, who, to me, was a first-round player by all counts. This offseason, they extend Naz Reid, who's from Jersey, a do-it-all backup wing, who, to be honest with you, can kind of slide in as that perfect complement to Rudy Gobert in the front court. He brings the perimeter skill set that Gobert lacks. Now you extend Anthony Edwards. Geno McDaniels, who arguably should have been first-team all-defense this year, has his extension on the way as well, going to his 4th season. I don't know if the Timberwolves are contenders because Karl Anthony Towns to me is playing out of position, and I don't think that he can be the ideal utility guy on a contender. But I do know one thing. It's that relative to a team like Los Angeles Clippers, they're going to win a lot more games this year. And I think the biggest thing that people always look at is, well, the Clippers have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. After this year, they're due for what could be 4-year max contracts. And, it's kind of fitting that on the show, we have a massive Kawhi Leonard fan who last year had them win the championship. Bren, the Clippers next year are winning less games than the T-Wolves.
So right out the gate, right? They're winning. I tweeted you back too. I said that we're doing this again, right? And by what I mean by that, John, is that last year I feel like you know what your prediction was on the Timberwolves, right? It was, they were going to be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, right? So we're doing this again, right? We're doing this again. Now it's the Clippers. Now you're singling out the Clippers. And what I got to say is, will they finish with a better record than the Clippers? I am just 100% in disagreement with you on that, because and listen, you're going to throw back at me, John. I understand what you're going to throw back at me. You're going to throw back, well, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard haven't played this amount of games, but they've been, blah, blah, blah. They haven't played games, right? I just got a feeling. I think Paul George is going to have a healthy season going into this season. Kawhi is probably going to play his, 50 to 55 games, which is perfectly fine. And I think the Clippers are going to be right around 50 wins, maybe just a hair under 50 wins this season. And I don't think the Timberwolves are sniffing even. I don't think they're getting the 5th seed. 100. I really just don't believe they're even getting the 5th seed. I see the Clippers as either the 4th, 5th, maybe even the 3rd seed. But that's where I stand on it. I can't get on with Rudy Gobert giving you absolutely nothing offensively. I love Anthony Edwards. He needs more help. Karl Anthony Towns is not the guy. You even are in agreement with that. And so, yeah, they just have a couple of things they got to tweak. They're kind of in a little bit of a handicap because of how much they gave away for Rudy Gobert. They don't really have as much draft capital as they would like. So, yeah, I don't see the only argument you can make against why the Timberwolves will have a better regular season record than the Clippers, right, John? The only argument you can make is that the Clippers won't be healthy. If we're talking talent, then your point is null and void.
I'll be honest with you. I'm sorry, Brandon. This is my first time back on the show in a long time. So fittingly, I have to disagree with you. I'm with John, man. I've first off, going into the season, I always said that this Minnesota team just needed a little bit of time to really just get gel and get used to each other. And all the points that John made are valid. Filling all those voids that they made when they made that trade for Rudy Gobert. And then I think the biggest key, and what we didn't touch on, was just this next year for Anthony Edwards. What we expect out of this guy. This is a guy that we pointed out before saying that could be a potential MVP candidate. And you've seen the flashes in the pan, and now it's time to put it all together in a season. And now we have concerns about what Cat can be. Is he just what we've seen? Is there any more that he can do? Can he be a complementary piece to a championship contender? I'm not ready to rule it out and say absolutely not. I think Cat, he may not be what he's not the number 1 on a championship team, but if Anthony Edwards does take that next step, if Rudy Gobert if he's the guy that we all expect him to be on defense, and then if Cat can transition into that role as a power forward, then I don't know. I think the sky's the limit for the Timberwolves. I think they're not too far from chasing championships and I feel like the Clippers window is closing because of Kawhi's age and injury history. So I think if there's any time, it's now for the Timberwolves.
I think the whole point of making this topic, Justin, was to point out the fact it's been over for the Clippers for over a year now. This year, not only were they 17th net rating, but they weren't a good defense. For the better part of the season, they were one of the 10 worst defenses in the league. Now you look at the roster, and the theory of it is, well, you've got Kawhi, a former D-boy, 2-time. You've got Paul George, a former all-defensive caliber player. Obviously, they've got good defenders in the roster. But as Justin pointed out, a guy like Marcus Morris is cooked. A guy like Nick Batum is at that age where he's almost cooked. And a guy like Kawhi Leonard has himself a 50-game regular season. He gets 2 games into the playoffs, and he's already tearing his meniscus. To think that he's going to be healthy this year, to think that Paul George will be healthy enough, is a little bit ridiculous. The saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is going to be the 5th year of people getting fooled by a Clippers team that, first and foremost, his knees are cooked. It's over. It's been over for quite some time. He cannot be the guy he was in Toronto. But the second thing is, too, Paul George has missed more games outside of the year that Kawhi entirely missed. He played 31 games, barely. Didn't even play half the season a year ago. To think that he's going to be healthy is a little bit ridiculous because he's never been healthy, unfortunately. And I like these two players, but the whole idea here is a team like Minnesota gets a lot more value from their top two players. They missed a total of 6 games in 2023 than what Kawhi and Paul George are giving you at this current point in time. And I think a lot of people look at the Russell Westbrook signing and the Clippers getting Kenyon Martin Jr. Those are 2 good moves this offseason, and I think that moves the needle. But the Clippers are missing the 2 stars, man. Not only is this defense not good, that's what leads you to regular season wins, but the 2 guys can't be healthy for you in the playoffs. And so when we look at the Western Conference, I rule out the Clippers for making a Lakers-like redemption arc. I don't see it with these 2 stars. And fortunately for Tyronn Lue, who's had to put up with load management every single November, it's probably only going to get worse this year. And given he was halfway out the door a couple of months ago, I honestly think if it weren't for the Clippers getting this new arena, it would already be over. I mean, there's no basketball theory to keeping this band of guys together because you've unfortunately seen it play out a couple of times now, and it's a new time in the Western Conference. The days of the Clippers have unfortunately passed.
So yeah, I mean, you basically went exactly where I thought you would go, which is the health concern. So again, I can't argue.
What do you think about the Clippers being the 18th ranked defense? What do you think about that?
All right, but what do you think about the fact that all right, let's play this game then, John. Right? Let me ask you a simple question. If Kawhi Leonard was healthy during that playoff run against the Phoenix Suns, who wins that series?
It doesn't matter. He wasn't healthy.
Okay, but you're asking me what do I think about the 18th net, whatever the hell that, right?
18th ranked defensive rating.
Yes, but I'm telling you in the playoffs where it counts most,
Kawhi
he got injured again. Yes, he
after
got hurt.
playing 50 minutes of competitive basketball. Kawhi's knee blew.
We're not arguing it. I'm not arguing injury. I'm not bringing up injury. I was just simply asking you a hypothetical question.
Oh, hypotheticals in the Clippers. Those have worked out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. But like, if you again, I said if you want to argue injury, I can't. I'm not arguing injury with you because I agree with you. But if you want to argue talent, then you're dead wrong in that case. But
talent, they were not even an above average offense this last season.
Again, I go back to
the question again.
I go back to the question, which you don't want to answer because it's a hypothetical. If Kawhi Leonard was healthy, just Kawhi, don't even give me Paul George, just give me Kawhi. What happens in that series?
They win.
Yeah.
They win the series if Kawhi stays healthy.
They most likely win in probably 7 games, right? And if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are healthy, they probably win in 5. But again, you wanna argue injury. I can't. You win. 100% agree. Minnesota. Again, but here's the thing. I don't even think with the injury concerns, they finished with a better record than the Clippers because we just saw last year with the Clippers again ravaged with injuries. They finished with a better record. Now you're going to come back and say the Minnesota Timberwolves have made moves. Anthony Edwards is going to take another step. They're going to gain more continuity.
Cat missed 53 games last year. He had a throat infection that
caused him with Cat.
Before the season even started, Cat was not healthy. Before the season even started, Rudy Gobert was playing international. He was not healthy. But those 2 guys do not have a debilitating knee condition and an injury history that dates the last 7 years. So you can say to yourself, oh, Cat can play 50 games, 60 games. He'll be healthy in the playoffs. You look at Kawhi's knees. One knee injury leads to another. The more you get, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue.
Like, what are we doing? We're going around in circles again, John. You're repeating yourself. We're going in circles. I can't argue injury with you. I can't. I agree.
It is an argument that Brandon admitted. He said that's 100 times out of 100. You can't argue that. The writing's on the wall when it comes to injury, when it comes to the Clippers. But he does have a point. If that Clippers team, which is a big if, that at that point we're playing hypotheticals, if they're healthy, that Clippers team could have went far in the postseason.
Yeah, I just think the only thing I was getting at was, the Clippers, while dealing with a bunch of injuries that they dealt with this year, like they have the past, however many years, the 6 or 4 years it's been going on, they finished with a better record than the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think that is going to be the case again. I don't think the Timberwolves are going to I think the Nuggets are going to stay at the tippy top. Memphis is probably going to take a decline, right? Sacramento is going to stay around where they were. Maybe the third is a little much, but maybe they stay around there. Phoenix is obviously, I think they're going to be better. Golden State, I believe they're going to be a little bit better than what they were. The Lakers, I think they're going to be better than what they were. You guys believe Dallas is going to be much better than they were. I just think that you look at the Timberwolves. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, they're going to get better. What are they going to move from 8 to 6?
Yes.
Again, if that's the case, I highly doubt that the Clippers are finishing worse than 6. That is like,
They missed the
I
playoffs
just
a year
cannot
ago.
see that. Huh?
A year ago, they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, when Kawhi Leonard missed the entire season, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
okay.
PG
He's
missed
not
it.
going to miss the entire season this year.
I
most
agree.
likely.
But the
He's
Western Conference got a lot better, as you just pointed out. You know, Wiggins stays healthy. He missed a lot of part of this year.
You're changing the argument.
But the idea here is a team like Minnesota got a lot better because Anthony Edwards last year, he's taken a jump from like, okay, he's a young star. Oh no, this is a guy who's been the best player on the floor in multiple playoff games. And he was 20 years old, then 21. Yeah. At 22 years old, we're pretty confident Anthony Edwards is going to take another step forward.
Wait, you're not talking...
By putting the pen to the paper, you know this is his team. And if he's taken one step after another in each of his first 3 years, year 4, you're looking at an all-NBA player. No doubt about it. But more importantly, you're looking at the type of star who can galvanize a team. He can lead a team. He can play 80 games. Yeah. He can set you up to be more than a 5th seed. The Clippers aren't going to be more than a 4th seed ever with Kawhi. So if he's going to give you a lot more value in the regular season, and Jaden McDaniels is arguably the best wing defender right now at 22 years old in the entire sport, I simply think, yeah, PG may be more talented than those guys, but what duo brings more value to the table? That duo is in Minnesota.
I don't say, but you said something. I just wanted you to clarify. You said Anthony Edwards is the best player in 2 playoff series. You're not talking about the Denver series, right? That just happened.
He's been the best player in multiple playoff games.
Oh, games, not series. You meant to say games, not series?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said series. Okay. Yeah, listen, I you got no qualms with me on Anthony Edwards. I believe in the kid. He's 21 years old. Do I think he's an MVP candidate now or next year? No, I don't, because I think you have to finish. For me, MVP candidates have to finish at least the 4th seed is like at worst what you can be. And I think that they're not getting to the 4th seed in the Western Conference. So they're going to have, like I said at the beginning, Minnesota also has some moves to make. If they want to crack up with the top dogs, I don't think this unit is the unit to crack with those top dogs. I think Anthony Edwards is that guy. I don't think his dogs behind him are. McDaniels, sure, I agree. You want a solid, an elite defender. I like that a lot. I think his co-stars are the ones to look at and say they're not the guys to get it done with him. That's my opinion.
You know what, though? With Rudy Gobert, I think a guy that's been overlooked is him. He had a bad year. Name was dragged in the mud. He wasn't healthy there to start. So it's not just McDaniels. It's Rudy at the rim who's won 3 deep poise. And at 30 years old, he's taken a step back. Is his offensive game, pretty dismal? Oh, totally. It's hard to watch him play. He can't catch a ball below his waist. But he was also the best rim protector in the sport for quite some time. And if he's healthy this year, he had a longer offseason than usual, last 2 years, because Utah's been a first-round exit with him. It's safe to assume that duo of him and Jaden McDaniels can take them from a top 10 defense to a top 5 defense. And when you look at top 5 defenses, those are the types of teams with very high floors. Look at the Atlanta Hawks. They've been a top 5, top 7 offense the last 2 years, but they've been just an 8th seed because in each of those 2 seasons, their defense has been terrible. They've tried it. They've added Dejounte Murray. They haven't been able to solve it. But when you get an elite defense and you have multiple All-NBA creators, that is where a team like the Kings slips through the cracks with one healthy season. And then you're like, oh, wait, this is the crazy. Like, we didn't see this coming, but it was possible. And then they just showed us we will do it. And I think the Timberwolves are that team this year that, look, I agree. Karl-Anthony Towns needs to be put in an environment where he's actually playing the right position. He is not a power forward. That being said, the Timberwolves youth, and what they've done in the drafts, Leonard Miller is going to be a guy who's going to play rotation minutes early on. Naz Reid could honestly start in some teams. Those are the types of complementary players, and the niche guys, they give enough value to the team to where they can be both a top 12 offense, a little bit outside the top 10, and a top 7 off, and a top 7 defense. That is a pretty safe bet to be a top 5 seed.
Let me ask you both this question, right? 2 questions, right? And then we can hop off. So this topic, not just hop off. The rumors are, right? You've probably seen the reports. James Harden is trying to demand his way to the Los Angeles Clippers. So, question one for both of you: if James Harden gets it, do you think James Harden gets his way? And do you like that move, him going to the Clippers?
I mean, Clippers looking for a point guard for so long, getting somebody that can create outside of Kawhi and Paul George having to find their own shots. I think that's an excellent move. I think James Harden has really taken that step back from being that dominant scorer that he once was. I think he'd be a perfect facilitator, but do I see it actually happening? Probably not.
Do I see it happening? It's very possible because at the end of the day, the 76ers have him for this last year, and they can do what Brooklyn did. They can have him start the season with them, but if they know he's going to walk at the deadline and he's hell-bent on going to the Clippers, at some point, the Sixers got to let him do what he wants. They got to let him go to Los Angeles where they have the bird rights to extend him for more money, and at the same time, they get something back in return. Because this Philadelphia team, it's been failed again by James Harden and Joel Embiid. But to lose what was an all-star caliber player the last couple of years, who you gave up multiple first-round picks to acquire in the first place, would be a massive failure. So do I think he gets his wish that he gets sent to his hometown in Los Angeles? At some point, yes. Would he be a great fit with the Clippers? Yeah. I mean, they need shooting, they need a playmaker, and they need a guy who can complement the two stars. And if there's one thing he has done the last couple of years, it's evolved his game to play more off ball. At the end of the day, though, this is not a guy who I look at it as a true needle mover for a team that's top two stars haven't been healthy. So to answer your question, sure. I don't know. I don't think it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I think, but with the Clippers, we've spoken ad nauseum about James Harden's playoff impact. For a team that's window is closing, adding a guy like James Harden, who's constantly let teams down in the postseason, isn't your recipe for success. No. So I don't. That's really a desperate move if the Clippers go out there and way to make that.
Yeah. That's what I'm just not on with that move. I can't get on board with it. To me, James Harden plays a specific style of basketball, and I just don't think that that's going to fit with what the Clippers are doing. Also, they just signed Russell Westbrook. I just got on board with the Russell Westbrook move. I'm not trying to go through a thing with James Harden and getting on board with that move. So I'm not for that at all. And the second question, final question. So John's really high on it. And then Justin, he believes that they can finish with a better record. So I'm going to ask you guys, put your, quote unquote money where your mouth is. Where do the Minnesota Timberwolves finish in the Western Conference next year?
Where do the Minnesota Timberwolves finish in 2023? I've got them as the 5th seed. Not the same expectation that some people like me are putting on them when they got Gobert a year ago. But here's the thing. If Karl-Anthony Towns is healthy, you've got multiple All-NBA creators. Towns plays out of position. But defensively, his limitations won't be exposed the way they have been in the playoffs. Rudy Gobert is going to be healthy. Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, elite wing duo at the age of 21 and 22. I think they're going to quite clearly be a 47-win team. If they get to 50 wins, it would mean Mike Conley's got to shoot the rock at an elite level. Slow-mo Kyle Anderson has to have an even better year. And ideally, Anthony Edwards takes that leap from, top 20 player to top 12, top 10. If they can do that, there's a chance they're a top 2 or 3 seed next year. But a couple of different things have to develop the right way.
I see him as a top 6 seed. I just really believe that another year with this team, Gobert fitting in, like John said, this guy was a defensive player of the year for a reason. Was hurt for a short time last season. You get him 100% healthy, get Cat 100% healthy, and then Anthony Edwards taking the next step. I don't see why this team can't have a Kings-like run.
So I'm just going to say it. At best, they'll be the 7th seed. At worst, the 10th.
Wow. What do you think the Kings' at best scenario was a year ago?
I don't know. Where did I have the – I know we did it. I probably around the 6th or 7th seed, if I'm not mistaken. But and you're right to say that. They proved me wrong. But I've always been a big fan of De'Aaron Fox, too. I think the Kings kind of, like you said earlier, right, John? They kind of found their year and they shot, and then that was the year that they went. I just think the Western Conference is so difficult. And even the bottom tier teams, OKC, could take a jump. The Pelicans, if Zion's healthy, could take a jump. The Mavericks, like you guys said, can take a big jump. I think at the top it's stacked, and at the bottom it's still got some great talent out there. So that's why I just say 7th to 10th. I just see them kind of finishing in the same realm and not cracking that, top tier of teams.
Sorry, Justin. You gave the 6th seed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all pretty. I do think you're sleeping on Minnesota. You gotta stop sleeping, dude.
I don't think I'm sleeping.
You're totally sleeping.
I'm wide awake, like Katy Perry said. I'm wide awake.
So the good news is that if Brand's gonna get all on his high horse, we can tell him, look, it's not official. Dame's going to the Miami Heat, and in fact, the Portland Trailblazers are willing to take it most long the Damian Lillard situation. And what it means that the Miami Heat's offer wasn't where it needed to be. I don't blame them. If I am the Portland Trailblazers, I do not want your garbage Miami, your late first-round picks and pick swaps that won't convey in 5 years. I don't want Tyler Hero when I've already got 3 young guards in my roster, one of which, Anthony Simons, is virtually the same exact archetype of a player. It makes remotely no sense for the Miami Heat to get the type of return that the Heat would be giving up unless you're also getting Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, a pair of first-round picks from a team that then take on Tyler Hero. I need 5 first-rounders and a couple of quality young wings to put up with this young core if I'm going to send Dame to Miami. And I think at the end of the day, Miami's going to have to give up every single thing, maybe even Caleb Martin, another undrafted guy who's on a great contract, because Portland would then get more assets for flipping him. I'll be honest, if Miami can't pony up all of that, they've got some bad news. There are teams out there like the Brooklyn Nets and the Utah Jazz who have more assets. And at the same time, their first-round picks, in Brooklyn's case, aren't their own. And Utah's case, they've already got the T-Wolves first-round picks and the Cavs. A lot of those teams can easily outpay the Miami Heat. So you came on here last week saying it's almost a done deal. This guy stop being a little bit selfish. They got to do the right thing, sending Dame to where he wants. I think it's just great business by Portland. I think it's the right type of move to get the most amount of assets. Now, at the end of the day, Brent, I've got bad news. You may build the best big 3 in the league with Eric Spoelstra, but you better hope the likes of Jamal Cain and Haywood Highsmith are ready to contribute. Because if they're not, you guys are not going to have the type of roster to make a deal like this.
You know what's crazy?
All leverage is out of your court. All of it's out of your court.
Can you even blame Portland whatsoever for doing this? I don't. I mean, you wait this long to even trade Damian Lillard, might as well wait for the best package. They've been sitting on their hands almost every offseason, and we've known their story. They're never going to contend for a title. So they've held off this whole time. You get what you want for it. If Miami isn't going to bite, you might as well hold on to him. You're going to just keep repeating the same song and dance.
Okay. Everybody, let's just take a step back, okay? Let's all just inhale, smell the flowers, and blow out the birthday candles, okay? We're all going to get through this together, guys, right? Because you guys are living in some type of world that I don't know what it is. I think it's that Candyland world I referred to a couple of months ago. John has joined Justin over there in Candyland. So while willing to wait months, I just reported about an hour ago from the Oregonian. I might be butchering. That's probably from, an Oregon journalist place or whatever the hell it is. Heat get closer on Dame trade. Miami has 3 first-round picks along with Hero and potential trade package. Portland wants 4 picks. Seems like we're not that far off. Seems like I've seen also reports that Miami and Portland, not that far off. The report came out, I think, a week or 2 ago. Portland wants 4 first-round picks and 2 quality players. Okay. If they don't want Tyler Hero, which is fine, that is their prerogative, let's get another team involved. Those other 2 teams that reported were Brooklyn and Utah, interested in Tyler Hero. Said to have Utah and Brooklyn were said to have they would be willing to give up a quality first-round pick to get Tyler Hero.
And that's one of the worst contracts in basketball. Portland would then have to take on like Ben Simmons or John Collins, who's got 3 years, $70 million.
No, not John Collins. Not sure. You can't trade a player that's just been recently traded. It would be Ben Simmons. Okay, but that you have to take on a deal like Portland. You're giving up a massive contract. You have to take on a deal. It's not like it's going to negatively impact them, John. They're not winning a championship anytime soon. In the next 5 years, they're not winning a championship. So it's not like this is negatively. We're not going to sit here and act like terrible teams haven't taken on terrible contracts because they know they're not going anywhere. That's what happens. You're going to have to take on a bad contract. That's kind of the case.
Right, but if I'm doing you a favor, then you have to give me more.
I just said they're going to give you a quality first-round pick. So all your wishes are going to be fulfilled. 4 first-round picks and quality players. You're going
But the worst contract in basketball is worth more than 1 first-round pick. I think it's worth 2.
That's not what's been reported. You're living in Fantasyland. I'm dealing with facts. So if you want to deal with facts, we can talk facts. If you want to live in Candyland, we can live in Candyland. Which one do you want to do? I prefer facts.
I'm taking on the contract of Ben Simmons, who was one of the worst rotation players this last season. I'm sorry, a first-round pick from the Suns or the Nets, like that is not going to move the needle. Those are the best first-round picks they've got.
I'm dealing with facts right now. Okay.
What facts do you have? What first-round pick did the Brooklyn Nets have?
John.
No, you had the facts. So tell me, what first-round pick did the Nets own that is incredibly valuable?
I'm about to. The reports have all said they want 4 first-round picks. I just read off a report. They are getting close on a deal. Miami's offering 3. They want 4. So obviously they are close. Obviously what you're saying is not factually true because they are getting close to dealing Damian Lillard to Miami. That's what I say. Yeah. That's what I mean when I say I'm dealing with the facts and you're dealing in Fantasyland. When you're trying to guess what they're saying, I'm going off of what everybody else is going off of, which is the reports that are being put out.
The reports are telling you that Ben Simmons would be a third player or a third party being sent to Portland, right? But
that Ben Simmons' name has not been really mentioned, but okay, you can throw him in there.
But if the Nets are going to be taking on Tyler Hero's contract, it would make the most sense that Ben Simmons would be the contract. But they don't have
it. They could anyway because they're not winning. They're not contending.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's
so really, it's no harm, no foul. Yeah, they're spitting out the money, but the true value in that deal isn't Ben Simmons. It's the pick.
Wait, and if worse comes to worse, I mean, I don't know. I don't think the contracts are going to work out, but we get rid of Kyle Lowry. He goes to Portland. That's even more no harm, no foul because he's got an expiring deal. And then maybe we take on Ben Simmons if that's possible. I don't know. But you're going to have to take on probably a couple of bad contracts, Portland. That's just the way it works when you're getting rid of a guy who's getting ready to make $50+ million per year. That's kind of how it works.
You're not trading Damian Lillard expecting to contend the next year. You're expecting to tank at this point.
Yes.
But you want the most amount of value possible for a 31-year-old who just had his best season.
All right, John, thank you for hitting.
I've got to squeeze every last asset out of Miami I can possibly get. Because he doesn't have a trade clause. He's got 4 years left in his contract. So if I'm Joe Cronin, I've got to get Caleb Martin, and I've got to try to get as much as I possibly can in return for what is arguably the best player we've had. Clearly the best since Clyde Drexler. So the last 35 years. Best player we've had.
I got you. So thank you for bringing that up. Right? Okay. Give me another package that is better than the Miami Heat's package.
The Utah Jazz have tripled the first round picks.
So you say Utah. Damian Lillard will not. Why the hell would Damian Lillard request a trade to go to the Utah Jazz if he's not contending for championships? Why would he leave Portland then? That's redundant. It makes no sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Explain it to me then, like a 5-year-old. I want you to explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Off his best season, Will Hardy, one of the better up-and-coming coaches, Walker Kessler, who would be the best center Dame's played with the last 6 years. And then you add in
6 years. He said 6 years.
Last 7 years. Since Robin Lopez, I mean, I think Walker Kessler can be a lot better than Robin. And that was the best center that Dame really got to play with because LaMarcus was more of a 4. So what I'm telling you is that Utah's got a quality young core.
Yeah,
but they have all the first-round picks they can send off with a great young
coach. But do you think Dame wants to play with another younger quality?
No, definitely not.
Okay, then why are you even saying that? That's why I asked you.
Sign an extension for the next 2 years.
Please let me have the floor. Please let me have the floor. Why I asked you that question, John, is give me the other better package, is because we're going to go in this circle right here. You're going to give me a shit team that's not going to be able to contend, which makes absolutely no fucking sense. Why he would leave Portland, a place he loves, gloves to not compete for a championship. The whole purpose of the request was to compete for a championship. Why would he leave Portland if he can't compete? So
Utah
you give me a package that's better, sure, but you give me a team that's worse, which gives him no shot to win. That is why we're going to keep going round and round and round. He's going to Miami. The deal is basically going to be done. You're getting into this just talking points around the world that the NBA world wants to get into because they have nothing to fucking talk about because Damian Lillard hasn't been dealt yet, and they're waiting for the bombshell to drop. So they're making up Toronto, Utah. He's going to Brooklyn. He's going to the Clippers. No, he's not, because those teams don't. While they might have better packages, except for the Clippers, they ain't competing for championships.
Well, I think you got to familiarize yourself with the Utah Jazz.
Because let me ask you this, John, point blank.
They were going to tank for Victor Wembanyama, and it turned out they were a borderline playoff team.
Point blank. I'm asking you a point blank question. Yes or no? Damian Lillard goes to Utah. They trade him the 6 first-round picks or whatever the hell. Are they competing for a championship this freaking year?
If they keep Keontae George, yeah, I think they could.
John, stop it.
Yes,
Utah is nowhere near all those teams that we've spoken about in the West. We just finished talking about a team in the West and the Clippers in Minnesota. Right. Just adding Dame to Utah doesn't even make them better than those two teams.
Dude,
I can assure you of that.
My heart literally just came out of my chest because I thought John knows his basketball. I'm questioning your basketball knowledge right now. I thought you knew more basketball than me, but you just said something that I don't think even a guy smoking crack would say.
Lauri Markkanen is probably a top 30 player in the game. He's one of the best finishers in the league. You give him one of the 4 best pull-up shooters, one of the top 4 guards in the game, with an elite rim protector going to his second season, and the foundation of that group makes sense. But then you add in a Keontae George, who's looked promising. I thought it was a really good pick for them. That's the type of 2 guard that gives you that Anthony Simons like that spark as a scorer. But your coach, Will Hardy, is also really good. So with Utah's system, they're young talent all developing. And a top 12 player, they wouldn't be a top 4 team to me in the West, no. But could they contend? In a conference that has 5 contenders, yes, they could. They could easily be a top 6 seed. They surely could win a playoff series if one ball bounces their way. And then if they're in the second rounds, we're talking about the Kings as borderline contenders. I don't see why Utah wouldn't if they're getting a top 12, top 10 player in his best moments in Dame. But of course, in the playoffs, he would have to prove himself, which he hasn't done up until this point after the first round at any point in his career. So honestly, I think it'd be Dame, if anything, that would limit their ceiling. Because it's pretty promising. And by the way, I didn't even mention a Taylor Hendricks, who was a top 10 pick. If they could keep him and Keontae George, it would be a no-brainer. They wouldn't be able to. But that is a quality young team that fits well with a really good coach. And also, Danny Ainge is an elite GM. He's built contenders in the past. I don't see why he can't, because with the Celtics, he built one in 2017, 2018 out of nowhere. So I'm sure he could again with Utah.
I just don't see Damian Lillard, which is the number one thing here. He's not going to want to play in Utah. And we know it. And I think him playing in Portland all these years, they won't trade him to a place he doesn't want to go. It's not like a disgruntled star that has been bitching and moaning about his organization all these years. No, Dame has stood pat and has been loyal to them. I think it's a moot point. I don't even think it's worthy of a discussion talking about a Brooklyn or a Utah or any other team getting in here, because Dame's loyalty to Portland, I think Portland repays that favor and gets him to wherever he wants to play, which is Miami. So I just think Portland is willing to sit on their hands because they understand what they have. And it is a commodity that a lot of teams would kill for. So they know, I need to get the best package out of Miami. We're going to send him to Miami no matter what, but I'm not sending him anywhere until I get exactly what I need. And so I think this Utah thing, as promising as Utah may be in the future, they are not a win-now team. Dame is coming from a bunch of Portland years where they were fringe playoff teams, getting bounced early over and over and over again. He doesn't want that. Utah, if he goes there right now, would probably be the same song and dance. They're not going to be the Kings. Maybe they make a play. Maybe they make the 8th seed, but get bounced in the first round. That's not what Dame's looking for. He's looking to team up with a Jimmy Butler who just came off of a finals appearance. He wants to play with that. He wants Eric Spoelstra. He doesn't want an up-and-coming head coach. I think, like I said, it's a moot point. Utah, Brooklyn, all of that, it's irrelevant. He's going to Miami. Portland just wants the best package for him.
it's. I mean, so it has been said, so it has been written. It's happening. I think you're gonna look back at what you said, John, and think that you were and know you were dead wrong because it makes zero sense when you think about what you just said in terms of if he goes to Utah, that they are an actual contender in the Western Conference this year. Not this year, not next year, not the year after, and not when the contract ends. Will they be a contender in the Western Conference?
In 4 years, yes, they easily could.
No, they will not.
You got to familiarize yourself with Utah, dude.
In 4 years, Damian Lillard, what, 35?
He'll be 36.
Yeah, and listen.
He's 32, turning 33.
You can say I got to familiarize myself with Utah, right? Okay, cool. I guess you need to familiarize yourself with Denver, Sacramento, Memphis when Ja is back, the Phoenix Suns who just got a big 3, the Golden State Warriors are going to run it back, the Lakers who were just in the Western Conference Finals, the Minnesota Timberwolves that you just fucking said are going to be a top 5 seed, the OKC Thunder who you believe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is this superstar player, the Dallas Mavericks who I think you were on record saying a couple weeks ago are going to be a top 5 seed. Everybody's going to be a top 5 seed in John's book. Everybody's going to be a top 5 seed. Stuff them all in. Stuff them all in.
Look, if I were the Utah Jazz, I would continue to build the young core, but adding in a Damian Lillard makes the case they could definitely, easily be a top 6 seed. I would probably have him as a 7. That being said, the whole point of mentioning Utah is because when Anthony Davis said, I want to go to the Lakers, the Boston Celtics were a suitor out there. And though everybody knew AD was not going to re-sign in Boston after they traded Isaiah Thomas, that drove up the Lakers package to where they had to give up 3 first-round picks for a player they were going to sign 1 year later anyways. Okay. And so the Pelicans were able to leverage the Celtics, a team who we all knew wasn't really the AD team, to get a crazy return for Davis. Yeah. They had no leverage up until they got that extra suitor. Okay. So in this theory, of course, if I'm Danny Ainge, I'm continuing to build this young core. But if I'm Joe Cronin, I can leverage this other shooter like the Utah Jazz. Of course, they can contend. They can give us double the picks. And then that dries up Miami's package, giving up both of your quality young wings and all of the picks. So that's really the whole point of that.
Well, first of all, in terms of Hami, you can't trade him until the end of July. Jovic, they would trade. Caleb Martin's not going to be a part of that package. They're going to get what they want. They're going to get the 4 first-round picks, which is what they want. And they're going to get some players in there, whether they're quality or not. You didn't want Tyler Hero. That's not our problem. You're going to get the players that are dealt to you. You're going to get the picks that you want, and Damian Lillard's going to get what he wants and goes to Miami. I don't know where the confusion lies. He's going to Miami. He's going to be in Miami. It's just taking a little bit longer. They're just tweaking a couple of things here and there, and that's all there is. That's that.
Portland is driving up that value.
That's fine. They're not going to get Caleb Martin.
If I were them, I'd be doing what I can. No, I would say they're not going to, but if I'm Joe Cronin, I'm doing everything I can because I'm going to get another pick from him and maybe a young player. He's one of the best contracts in the game.
That's fine. And listen, even if they do get Caleb Martin, sucks, but you got next man up. That is the Miami Heat mentality is next man up.
Well, you just lost Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. I don't know how many more guys
they are. I'm not Max Strus. I'm not losing any sleep. Gabe Vincent. I'm happy for him getting his money. Both I believe.
It took those guys a full year to get comfortable.
Listen, both of those guys are replaceable players.
Fair.
And you're replacing them with much more replaceable players because it took Max Strus a full year and a half, and he still wasn't performing well in the playoffs. For Gabe Vincent, it took him a full year of experience. So if you lose those guys and you replace them with less experienced players, it's going to take longer for those.
Who are these less experienced players? Who is Miami? We have no idea who they're gonna put out there.
If there's anybody,
no idea right now. Right. You're saying inexperienced. I mean, okay, there's a chance that they play Haywood Highsmith. He's a little bit more experienced. He shows some things. I like a Goran Dragic re-signing. That's an experienced player as a backup point guard.
But an experienced player that has a pulse is what I'm telling you. Goran Dragic
can still play. Goran Dragic can still give you 15 minutes a night and give you quality minutes.
He has in the last 2 years. So
he hasn't gotten his shot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But a lot can happen in 2 years. Kyle Lowry went from a guy getting paid $90 million to we're looking to dump him in a potential trade. So what I'm telling you is like the Miami Heat, they can lose those guys and they can be replaceable. But if you're replacing them with much less experienced rookies and sophomores, then that foundation, that cast, it's not going to be anywhere near where you're expecting.
Well, that's also what you're assuming because, like I said, if you trust anybody to build a championship contender, it's Pat Riley. So after Dame, they're not completely strapped. While it may seem so, but if there's anybody that's going to figure something out, look at this whole Miami team of undrafted players making big runs in the postseason. They can find that. Now they don't grow on trees, but like I said, if there's anybody that will find it, it will be Pat Riley. So I'm not, with an ounce of doubt, I'm not doubting this guy. I'm not doubting Miami. You get Dame, I'm more than positive that they fill this roster up with players that can compete. And they're not just going to be pulling random dudes off the street. I know that for a fact.
Well, that's what they've done. It's worked for them, so.
I disagree. I mean, there's still minimum veteran contracts out there that you can sign. There are still players out there that you can sign.
Right, but those guys aren't going to actually give you much. Like Trevor
They
Ariza.
are going to, like again, they will give you. We've I don't know what that was. We've seen multiple times veteran players give you pretty good quality minutes in the playoffs. Multiple times.
And it's just also what
Rajon
Rondo,
Rondo, Dwight Howard, and JaVale McGee come to mind. Guys who weren't in their prime anymore, well past their prime, and still give you quality.
The Lakers tried again with Bazemore, Rondo, and Howard, and it didn't work out at all.
Some aren't going to work, and some are going to work.
But a lot of guys that are at that age won't work. More often than not, they're going to be cooked.
I feel like every championship team, you can find some veteran players on there that gave quality minutes.
Yes, you need veterans to win championships.
Okay, then I don't know what we're.
Why 37-year-old Goran Dragic.
I don't know what you're arguing right now, John.
A Goran Dragic is not going to do anything for the Heat. He hasn't played the last 2 years for a reason. He is no longer a rotation player.
But you know what? I thought the same thing about Kyle Lowry. He played big minutes in the postseason, even after a crappy regular season. So
and Kyle Lowry was a much better player a year and a half ago, right? He was a guy that was getting paid $90 million. A Goran Dragic, he was being moved in the Kyle Lowry signing trade. So, like, you have to look at where the player was and where they've gone. You know, Goran Dragic became expendable after struggling in the 2021 playoffs. So the Heat moved him, and with the Bulls, he was out of the rotation by the playoffs. They were cutting him, sending him to Brooklyn. And then when he got to Brooklyn, he had a good playoff here. Holy shit. I would mute your mic. And then with the Bucks this last year, he only played in 7 games. So at 38 years old, it's tougher to expect those guys to really give you consistent rotational minutes. That's what it comes down to a lot of the time. But my expectation here, if you guys are wondering, I think Dame's getting traded to Miami. But that being said, I'm going to play GM here. And I'm hoping Joe Cronin gets as much as he possibly can because that's a good young core they have. You might as well get as many young players as you can add to it.
Listen, he's going to get what he's going to get. He's going to get what he wants, and then that's just really it. But I listen, they're going to get their big three together. Whatever John is saying is going to be completely opposite of what he's going to be saying in a year when Miami are going to be the true contenders in the Eastern Conference, playing with guys they just re-signed. They signed Josh Richardson. You got Kevin Love still there. Thomas Bryant is still there. They signed him. So you've got players, and as long as you've got Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and that big three of Dame, Jimmy, and Bam, I'm perfectly fine finding ancillary parts. Like this is not rocket science. This is pretty easy stuff here.
The Heat would be the best team with Dame.
Yeah.
I didn't disagree with you.
Okay.
But with all that out of the way, I think it's time for us to transition to the NFL because we've got a lot of teams to cover.
Oh, yeah. Not 12 minutes, but we got 2 teams to cover, but we got a lot of teams to cover in weeks to come. Yeah.
Guys, I think we're only 9 Sundays away from week 1.
Yeah, it's been a long off season. I feel like it's honestly less than 9 because we're in the middle of July. It's probably like 6.
The first game I think is September 7th.
Yes, I think we're a little bit closer to 9 Sundays.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Might have been a couple weeks ago.
Justin, your math is.
Well, I said I didn't say precisely 9. I did say
I think. Well, you know what else you said? You know what else you've said a lot is you've said these 49ers that are going to win out. They're not going to lose a game after. I forget what happened. But I think that when they blew out the Bucks, or even a couple weeks before that, you said that. So I'm going to ask you: First off, who is the 49ers quarterback this upcoming season? And does it matter to you?
That isn't my question to answer. I don't know what's going on in camp. I don't know how Brock Purdy's arm is. But my assumption is if Brock Purdy's healthy, he's your starting quarterback.
Okay.
I could say that for certain, but I'll be honest with you. Your second question was, does it matter? No, I really don't think it does matter. As long as you have somebody of the likes of a Purdy, of the likes, and yeah, I'll even go as far as say maybe Sam Darnold can find a new level playing with the Kyle Shanahan. And I know that sounds so crazy. It really does, because it sounds crazy coming out of my mouth to me. But what's also crazy to me, it would be doubting the brain of Kyle Shanahan. I think that would be crazy as well. So I think San Francisco has shown you time and time again, and which is why it drives me nuts how people can doubt what they can do. If Jimmy G can take you to NFC championship games and take you to a Super Bowl, Brock Purdy looked better than Jimmy G from some of the moments that we saw. So are you ready to anoint him as a better quarterback than Jimmy G? Just nod your head yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so boom, that's fine too. So Sam Darnold looked much better in Carolina. He had spurts of good football. I think him playing, like I said, playing under Kyle Shanahan, I have no doubt, whether it be Trey Lance, getting to see him be the dynamic player that we expected him to be coming into the league, or Brock Purdy, which we've already seen. The guy is undefeated in his NFL career at the moment. I'm not counting the Eagles game. And then whether it be Sam Darnold, like I said, seeing those spurts and good football positively coming out of him, I have zero doubts about the San Francisco 49ers. And at this very moment, I tell you right now, they'll be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I don't think I'm going to change my mind. I know it's July. I don't give a damn. I didn't give a damn last year, and I'll stick by it. If Brock Purdy doesn't go down in that NFC championship game, they win.
It's a weird discussion with them because we always look at the quarterbacks. The quarterback for the 49ers was what held them back in the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs. But this last offseason was also a pretty crazy one for them. They lose Mike McGlinchey to the Broncos, their right tackle, had a very good year coming off injury. And then they add in Javon Hargrave at D tackle. But they then lose D'Amico Ryans, who replaced Robert Saleh. And typically in the NFL, you don't see three elite coordinators one after another. It's very rare. And the Niners were lucky enough to hand two elite DCs. I think my question with the 49ers this year wouldn't just be about Trey Lance. It would be if their defense is going to maintain its elite level play. Because we've looked at this team. Nick Bosa just had the season, of course. He's fully reinstated from all the injuries in his second year, torn ACL. But you have to wonder for a team that altogether has dealt with injuries, how they're able to sustain last year. Does Talanoa Ufanga, who had an incredible year with D'Amico Ryans, maintain that level of play? Because they've got Steve Wilkes coming in, and that is the big question for me, the big X factor. Can that defense still be top three? Because typically, if you look at the NFL, it's a lot easier to sustain an elite level offense than to sustain an elite level defense year to year. And a good example of this is my favorite team, the Steelers. TJ Watt misses some time. They go from being a top 5 defense to a bottom 3. And just like that for the Niners, this team goes from 13 wins, we're the best in the NFC arguably, to, oh no, we're a 5-win team. And that's not even to consider what Trey Lance is going to be. Because we don't know Brock Purdy going to year 2 if he's going to continue getting better. And if this is who he is as a quarterback, who is more NFL ready than most, you have to ask yourself, what is Trey Lance? He traded 3 first-round picks to move up into the top 3 to get a quarterback who played 1 year of football after high school. In his first 3 years in the NFL, he has started less than 5 games. And last year, he was ready to show us what he could be. And then he got hurt a quarter into their second game of the season. So for me, it's not just the uncertainty of how good their defense is going to be relative to the last 2 years. It's also, okay, what is the quarterback situation going to be? Are we getting replacement level quarterback play with Kyle Shanahan leading the way? Because Kyle Shanahan can only control so much. Or are we getting to understand what Trey Lance is? And when we find the answer, is he the type of guy who can level this team up, leaving no uncertainty, leaving no doubt that, no, we are just as good as the Eagles. And the Eagles, who dealt with a lot of injuries, still went to the Super Bowl and gave the Chiefs a great fight. Can the 49ers do that when they're injured? I don't know. Because when a couple of injuries come around, it feels like, particularly at the quarterback position and on the front seven, the perplexion of this team can completely change. It can flip on its head. And so that's what I think it's the most fascinating team in the NFC this year, because every year we talk about them being that squad that's always overlooked and they're just a couple of breaks going their way away. But similar to a Baltimore Ravens, it just hasn't clicked up until this point. And so I'm going to have my eye out this year on this team. And I do think they're going to still be a 12-win team, but I don't think they're the only potential contender here in the NFC West.
Well, I mean, I'll make it quick because you guys basically hit on all the points. I think we all think the 49ers are going to be, a tough out week in and week out, regardless who their quarterback is. From what we saw of Trey Lance, he didn't look ready. And it's kind of like the difference between him and I'm blanking on the freaking kid's name. 49ers quarterback.
Rocket Chip?
Brock Purdy. Yeah, Brock Purdy. Yeah, no, you're right. Brock Purdy. Like when you watch Brock Purdy get put into the game in his first game from get-go, he looked ready. He looked comfortable. He looked poised. Trey Lance never looked like that out of the get-go. So that's a worry for me. And John hit on it, and I completely freaking forgot. But Javon Hargrave, the move that the 49ers, how they were able to fit that, beyond me. When teams, this is what I know in sports. When teams want to make moves, they're going to make moves. It doesn't matter how much cap space there is. What do they got to do? They're going to flex. They're going to do whatever they got to do. They're going to manipulate the cap, and they're going to get it done. That is insane that you had a guy who on Pro Football Focus was ranked third. That's insane. Next to guys like Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year candidates. They're going to be contenders, but John, I guess you wanted to talk because you said there's not going to be. So the Seattle Seahawks, right? You were more of a believer in them. You're more a believer in Geno Smith. So I want to ask you, is Geno just is laughing at you? Is Geno Smith a one-hit wonder, or is this the expectation now?
Is Geno Smith a one-hit wonder?
Be careful how you answer this, my friend.
It's a little bit funny to me because everybody's looking to say he's going to regress the mean. He's 33 years old, a career backup, and let's be honest, we don't know. There's fog of war with Geno Smith. But it wasn't just last year that Geno played well. When Russell Wilson got hurt in 2021, he stepped in 3 starts. And while the Seahawks were not winning a whole lot of games, he completed his passes. He was zipping shots down the field. And Geno Smith has the entire skill set. He has the physical makeup, and he has the experience. And I've said this a million times, and the fact people still don't talk about it. When you sit behind 3 different Hall of Fame-worthy quarterbacks, Hall of Fame caliber, 3, we'll say, good quarterbacks, and Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and then Russell Wilson, you get to learn from their habits every single day. You look at the Jets, meanwhile. All the Jets have done is ruin one young quarterback after another. In fact, when was the last time the Jets had a good defense? When was the last time the Jets had a good offense? I don't think I was born yet.
Ryan Fitzpatrick with Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall.
In 2016, they had 1 year and they still missed the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I think they would kind of stick to this, yeah.
You look at the Jets organization and you see nothing but dysfunction. You then look at Geno Smith, who was a legitimate MVP candidate the first half of last year. He was the galvanizing force as a leader and the quarterback under center who said, everybody thinks I'm the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. In fact, they think Drew Lock should be starting. Okay, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to lead the NFL in completion percentage. I'm going to throw for 252 yards per game. For the people that love the TD interception ratio, he had 30 TDs. The Seahawks offense, meanwhile, was one of the better units in the game. Because of him, top 10 in scoring, they won 9 games, and everyone wants to talk about, hey, look, the Seahawks aren't on the 49ers level. Well, when they played them in the first round of the playoffs, they were beating them in the first half. Then the 49ers flipped the switch real damn quick. But in that game, I came away with the takeaway. Geno Smith, against high-level defenses, not only holds his own, he can beat them. He had he had 2 turnovers in that game. He had a fumble lost. It wasn't necessarily his best game of the year, and he slightly took a step back in the second half. But to say that he's not going to continue getting better after a full year for the first time starting with real stability, I think is unfair to him, because you've seen for a year and a half now, this guy got the second chance that many quarterbacks don't. And all that he's done with it is made the most. So, yeah, man, I think this is just the beginning. He's 32 years old. We've seen quarterbacks for years play up until they're 40. I don't know why he can't have a Kurt Warner, Warren Moon type renaissance. And the skill set's always been there from West Virginia. It always has been. It was a matter of finding the right opportunity and the right organization. What do you know? He got exactly that the last couple of years.
Listen, I feel like I come across as a hater when I talk about the Seahawks. I am not a hater. It's an incredible story of Geno Smith, him coming in there, starting as quarterback, especially preseason. I wanted Drew Lock to start. I was one of those people. I don't know if you're just taking a shot at me or everybody else.
I'm taking a shot at you.
But I wanted Drew Lock to start, and it's fair. He's a younger quarterback. I wanted to see what his potential was. Geno maximized his potential there, and then that was incredible. But John, you sit here, and I meant to touch on this when you were talking basketball. You were praising Lauri Markkanen after one great season,
Right.
But we haven't seen that before out of him. Geno Smith, we haven't seen this before. So there is nothing for me to sit here and be like, okay, like Brandon said, this is the expectation now. I'm not expecting Geno Smith to throw 30 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. No, I'm not. Because I'm sitting here looking at a 32, 33-year-old quarterback that is a career backup, because that is what he is. He is a career backup for a reason. If Russell Wilson was still in Seattle, what would Geno be doing?
He wouldn't get his
backing up for
back.
Another team. He would not be a starter for another team. And then Seattle goes out here after one fantastic year and gives him a boatload of money to be their starting quarterback for the next 3-4 years. This is the same team that was looking at Anthony Richardson in the draft. Why? Because they know he's an older quarterback. He is a career backup, and he is not your future. You have receivers like Lockett. You have receivers like Metcalf. You got up-and-coming running backs. You want a quarterback that's going to stick around and grow with them. You do not want a 32, 33-year-old quarterback that you're going into next year and having questions about. And I guarantee you that there are people in the front office in Seattle that are also having the same question. This guy is 33 years old and has had one good season.
He had 2 good seasons, because when Russell Wilson got hurt in 2021, he had 4 good games as a backup that stepped in. And here's the thing, Justin. You said they paid him a boatload of money. They gave him $40 million guaranteed. That's barely more than what Jimmy Garoppolo got. Garoppolo, look what he did in San Francisco. He was a good
went to the Super Bowl
quarterback. It wasn't because of him.
He went to the Super Bowl.
Geno Smith is a much better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. He is a better thrower of the football with more velocity and better accuracy. He's honestly maybe a better decision maker too. He's got better athleticism and movement within the pocket, and he's got a little more poise with all that lack of experience you alluded to. So when I look at the quarterbacks in the NFL, I already think Geno Smith is one of the better ones in the league. You made the Lauri Markkanen point. Bless you, Brandon. Lauri Markkanen in his second season averaged 19 points per game on good efficiency, but he was in Chicago with terrible coaching. Geno Smith at West Virginia was a really good quarterback prospect that went to the absolute worst team. Wouldn't you agree the Jets were what is the worst team in the NFL developing quarterbacks? What is it?
That is the
Jets. It's the New York Jets. Okay. So now Geno Smith got to sit behind 3 great quarterbacks. What do you think that does for him when he gets that new opportunity and he shows out big time for a year and a half? What does that mean to you?
Listen, we've seen many quarterbacks that have sat behind legends and turned into nothing. And that doesn't mean anything to me. He just, like I said, he maximized his potential. He had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant on his offense. He had an explosive-ass offense. Now, you start piecing those pieces away and you start actually putting some adversity in front of him, what's going to happen?
Well, you know what, Justin, what's so funny about this? Steve Young was the first overall pick in 1985. His first 2 years in Tampa Bay, he won 3 games. And he lost 16. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So what did he do? He sat behind Joe Montana for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 years. When Steve Young got that next opportunity, he was 30 years old. And you want to know what he did at 31? He won MVP in his 4th year starting. You want to know what he did at 33? He won another MVP.
So Geno Smith is Steve Young.
No, but you've seen in the past different.
Jerry Rice was his receiver.
Right. But you just pointed out before, Geno Smith has an excellent receiving core. You add in Jackson Smith and Jigma, might be a top 3 slot receiver in the NFL day one, right? So, of course, you're not going to be Steve Young because Steve Young was a one-of-a-kind prospect. Is why he was taken with the 1st overall pick. But you have seen multiple different quarterbacks in the past from multiple different franchises have things go poorly in their first couple of years. But like anything else in life, whether you're podcasting, you're playing baseball, you're playing basketball, any sport, when you get the right opportunity in the right situation, bad players, people that are bad at their jobs inherently start to develop. Geno Smith never developed in New York. Steve Young didn't develop up until he got his new starting opportunity at 30. But what if people said, you know what? After Steve Young's first year in San Francisco, he's no Joe Montana. I mean, obviously he's doing well because they've got Jerry Rice. I mean, he only went 5-5 his first year starting. They won 10-6. He only got in there because Montana was old and injured. He's not the franchise guy. We saw him in Tampa Bay stink it up. One good year as a backup doesn't mean anything. But then you're missing out on that opportunity to see on the other side what he could have been. And that was MVP, right? So you have to let it play out with Geno Smith to at least let him realize his full potential. Because you've seen now, back 25 years ago, you got to 30 years old and you're a quarterback, you were pressing retirement. But now in the NFL, when you're 40 years old, we see guys all the time play into their 40s. Aaron Rodgers turns 40 this year. So I think it's very unfair that you pick Geno Smith as you're a native New Yorker, and you say, you know what? I'm not going to buy in because he's a career backup. But you've seen multiple times in the past. Kurt Warner is a prime example too, where he got that second opportunity after backing up Eli Manning, ironically. And what did he do? He went to the Super Bowl with the Cardinals. It was about 9 years after he won a Super Bowl with the Rams.
Yeah, but he was already a seasoned vet that won a Super Bowl and showed that he can. So, you know what, John, that was a beautiful story. And for anybody that's looking for motivation, you can listen to John, please, because that was very motivational. But I'm sorry. I'm still not going to budge. So I have a question for the two of you guys. John goes on this rant about the Seahawks, and Brandon, we have yet to hear your opinion on Geno. But I want to ask this question. Now, your expectations for Geno Smith and these Seahawks, how much better is San Francisco compared to them? And can Seattle actually surpass them this season?
Can Seattle surpass San Francisco? No. I think San Francisco's defense is going to be the biggest brick wall for Seattle. I don't see Geno being able to conquer that monster in San Francisco. In terms of Geno, just quickly, and then I'll pass it over to John. I think you guys are, first off, I think John's a little bit, he's too far over here, and Justin's too far over here. Geno is what Geno is. He's a bridge quarterback who is obviously going to be the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks for the next couple of years until they find a quarterback or draft a quarterback in the first or second round to develop that guy. I highly doubt Geno's going to be the starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks when he's 38 years old. He will be long gone from the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe he'll be a starting quarterback for another team that's quarterback is injured because he's a veteran backup. But that's where I come from in terms of Geno.
I don't see where you guys are coming from because when I watched Geno Smith play last year, I felt like the only shortcoming in his game was inconsistent decision making, which oftentimes is a matter of getting more experience with receivers so you get your timing down pat. Everything else he brought to the table was what made him a potential first-round pick back in 2013. So I understand you think he's a bridge quarterback, but he was a bridge quarterback in the MVP discussion. He was a bridge quarterback that showed high-level arm talent, good athleticism, and a confidence to say, F you, I'm going to zip this ball into a tight window while I'm running on the move to my left side. I mean, the level of throws, the difficulty in them was pretty incredible. He was one of, if not the most accurate quarterback in the league. And that's extending beyond just completion percentage. So quite clearly, there's something here if he continues to get better. So I get it. You think I'm sipping the funny stuff, but I think really I'm open to the possibility of Geno continuing to build off last year.
What's the Seahawks ceiling then? You invest in him.
I definitely think they're going to be a playoff team this year. And when I look at the NFC, you've got Philly, San Francisco, and Dallas. The Seahawks are a clear fourth best team to me. More proven coaching and a better defense than the Lions. Tariq Woolen had the offseason surgery, but you had Devon Witherspoon. He was a top 5 pick for a reason. We see cornerbacks every single year come in. And day one, they're elite at the position. The rules inherently don't even favor them that much nowadays. And I think what they've got is everything minus the defensive front. That is the one thing that can hold them back. But they can easily win this division because the 49ers can easily be ravaged by injuries at the quarterback position, at the running back position, on the offensive line, because Trent Williams is probably the best run blocker in all of football. But you think about how old he is. I'm going to guess Trent Williams is 36 years old. What do you guys think?
34. Yeah, I was about to say 30. Yeah, 34.
So like that's a younger offense in San Fran that's already dealing with the injuries. Their defense is also younger, but it's dealt with the injuries. Another year of a deep playoff run. I think it's very possible the San Francisco 49ers this year are a little bit close to the 2020 team that was injury ravaged and they didn't make the playoffs. That's possible. So I'm open to the idea of either of these two teams winning the division, but I would give San Francisco a good like 67, 68, 69, like a almost 70% chance that they win it. But I don't know what you're laughing at. The Seattle Seahawks, though, they have a good 30% chance, I would say. And I think if a couple things bounce their way, this is a team that could be playing the NFC Championship game. I thought that a year ago, and I still think it now. But a lot of it, too, is the development of their two young tackles. Because you've got two guys coming off of the rookie seasons. They need to continue getting better. And once they do, now it becomes a lot more natural to run the football on the Eagles or the Cowboys. Once they get there, then we're talking about a team that can really be a true contender. But until then, I think it's a great story with two great years of drafting by John Snyder. If he can keep it up, I don't see why people are out on this team. They are a clear top 4 team in the NFC.
Well, I won't be rooting against.
Yeah,
it sounds like you are.
Yeah, no, I'm not against it. I just feel like saying that the 4th best team in the NFC is like it doesn't mean much to me because the NFC is very, very weak. I mean, Geno Smith, if he was in the AFC, he wouldn't even crack your top 11 quarterbacks in the conference.
No, all it takes is being one elite quarterback to go to the Super Bowl for the NFC. So it does mean something if you're a top 4 team.
I mean, one elite quarterback. Okay, yeah.
That's Jalen Hurts.
They're going to have to get through a San Francisco 49ers defense,
which might be ravaged by injuries.
Might. Let's not play with hypotheticals right now.
Doesn't like
We've seen it for multiple years.
I mean, the defense has always been there. That's one thing that hasn't let them down.
Oh. Yeah. With all that being said, it's going to wrap up this episode of the Wise Guys podcast. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like on the stream. Why haven't you? And of course, follow for more content like this. And as always, until next time.
Stay classy. Yeah, I miss you guys.
Likewise, bro.